Hello,
How are
Tzaddikim
you?
and Tzaddikses from around the entire world. Today I have the privilege to be interviewing Dr. Benjy Epstein. Dr. Benjy,
Woo!
do it.
What's going on, Laili?
Amazing. Baruch Hashem, right. Can you please share with us a little bit about yourself, your hobbies, what you enjoy doing, a little bit about your background? Let's hear.
Okay, so the truth is, I'm on this podcast to get invited out to Oregon, so I've never been there before. So I just wonder how many likes do I need to get on this podcast for us to do this live? I need a lot, right?
Yeah.
All right. So I don't know how we found each other, but B'siyata D'Shmaya, I live in Eretz Yisrael. I have 4 kids, Kananahara. I am a clinical psychologist. I wrote a fantastic book about Jewish mindfulness, which is something that's been helping a lot of people. And I now have a podcast myself in conjunction with the Meaningful Minute people called Pause, where we talk about the ideas about mindfulness. My hobbies include looking busy. I try to learn Torah. I try to do a little bit of writing myself. Some outdoor exercising. Do I have any hobbies? I don't think I have hobbies. It's like I'm working on getting a hobby, but and I'm a clinical psychologist in private practice here in Yerushalayim, where I see people in my office, and I do work online and working on my next book. Is that it? Am I good? How are we doing?
Amazing. Yeah. All right. You're a therapist. Is there another word for therapist?
I'm a psychologist. I'm a clinical psychologist. I got a PhD in yes.
How in the world did you get into such an intense job? What's the story behind you?
Great question. That's a really great question. I've spent a lot of time in my own therapy trying to get to the nakuda of like, how did I end up here? Because I have something called attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. It's called ADHD, which is a blessing, and it's also sometimes challenging. And to sit with somebody for 45, 50, 55 minutes um, and hold that space is something that I didn't think I could do necessarily, even though I'm naturally drawn to working with people and I'm fascinated by people. And there's definitely a part of me that wants to be a helper. And so it sort of worked out that way. Hashem works in mysterious ways. And I've had, thank God, a lot of revealed good, as we would say in the Chabad terms,
Baruch Hashem.
of connecting with people. I think people like the fact that I'm not boring. I'm not just nodding my. I don't know if you've ever been to therapy. We don't have to talk about it yet, but I'm saying, the therapist who sits there and nods their heads and asks me how about their feeling. Like, yeah, that doesn't work. I mean, it's just like, oh, and every time, someone comes to me, if they were, went to therapy as a children, and I'd be like, what'd you do with your therapist? They'd be like, we played checkers. I'm like, all right, cool. We're not doing that. We're not going to play checkers, but, and hopefully giving people skills to really live lives of Yishuv Hadas, of really being connected to what they're doing. And also because I live in Eretz Yisrael and I live in Yerushalayim, a lot of my therapy includes using spiritual texts and works of Hasidus that I'm always apologizing because, from graduate school, they're like, leave that stuff out. And I'm always like, there's an idea from the Parsha or, it's just Rosh Chodesh Iyar that we could talk about. And everyone who I work with is usually like, please share that, because so much of the work that we do in therapy can't just be focused on, the physical symptoms. We're really trying to address deeper levels, which is what it's supposed to be able to expose the ideas of Hasidus. And I know that you're very deeply connected to the ideas of the Baal Shem Tov and the Baal Tanya. And so, yeah. So how did I end up there?
Just happened.
Yeah, it's sort of like, and you see, if you look backwards, right, you can only put the dots together when you look lemafre, when you look backwards, but you see how, like, not getting that opportunity and then thinking, what, maybe I'll go into chinuch and being like, yeah, I don't want to do that. Ain't nobody got time for that. And it's like, oh, I'll just be a psychologist, and that'll be a sort of like, a stealth way of being able to continue to grow as a person and also be able to help others and hopefully make a parnasa and be able to play, with my kids. So that's the goal. And the goal is soul. I had to make t-shirts and beanies and hoodies, but that's a separate thing.
Amazing. Can you please describe to us what preparation for a session looks like? A video for like all of us to see. Please lead us through that.
Where are these questions coming from? Preparation for a session is a fantastic question. It really depends on the person. I mean, when I was younger, it was like buying a book and reading the entire book before the therapy. It's like, okay, now I finished that one. Like, what happens? And now it's more just really making a connection with the person.
Yeah.
And, you get to a point where, and this is even from last week's Parsha, Tazria Mitzorah, there's a beautiful Orach Chaim. Are we doing Torah here? Or what are we doing? Are we doing therapy? We're
No,
doing Torah?
go
We're doing both?
ahead. Let's hear it.
The Orach Chaim HaKadosh talks about how in his Medayik, do I have to like translate words? Who's our audience? There are like 50,000 people watching this, right?
A lot of people are
Should I
watching.
translate? Should I
You can
translate the Hebrew terms? Or,
translate.
no, meaning we're talking about somebody who has a lesion, some sort of leprous condition on his skin, and he goes to the Kohen, and the Orach Chaim HaKadosh, the priest, one of the commentators from whenever the Orach Chaim lived. I don't think he was medieval, so like Renaissance. I don't know when he. Oh gosh, embarrassing. Anyway, somebody from a few hundred years ago, a big tzaddik, a big righteous individual, explains based on the unique language that was used in the pasuk in the verse that what the Kohen needs to do, what the priest needs to do when he has this person come and show him this strange, weird deformity that's grown on his skin, which is some sort of sign from God that something isn't right in his life. The fact that he came specifically to that Kohen is also a sign that the Kohen needs to check himself also. Like, why did he choose this Kohen? Why did this person? And I find in therapy, most of the time, if you're paying close attention, the people that show up in your life that come to your therapy office are the people that HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants you to be treating. Right? There really is this special quote unquote shidduch. And again, it's not always, it doesn't, sometimes, you have one session with somebody like, yeah, this wasn't a good idea. You have the introductory phone call and they're like, yeah, I think you might be a little bit too excitable. That doesn't really happen a lot. But or sometimes I'm like, by the way, just in case I happen to be male, that's how I identify. And so like they're like, okay, that. And so if you're looking for that specifically, but in terms of that, there's always a lot of siyata d'shmaya. The people I'm zocha to work with. Yeah, I've been, recently some of the people I've been working with, they've been getting married, and it's sort of like, oh, you sort of get invited. You don't know anybody at the wedding because why would you know anybody? You're just a therapist. And I'm like, oh, what are you doing? And I'm like, oh, I'm here from the chassan side. Like, oh, how do you know the chassan? I'm like, oh, we work together. Like, anyway. So it's a real zchus to see people going on and moving on in life and moving forward in the value direction of their life, and you get to play a part. You get to play a part in that, and you get to do it in a very stealth way, in a very, very, very tsanua way,
Right.
and that's the way HaKadosh Baruch Hu works. HaKadosh Baruch Hu works in a tsanua way too. So we're affecting change, and we're not affecting change. We're helping people, get to where they want to get in life. And it's a real bracha. It's a real bracha when it's good. When it's not good, it's sort of like, ooh. But that's humility. Then you need to have a lot of humility because at the end of the day, there's only one guy pulling the strings.
100% right. What's something you really love about this job?
We're focusing on the therapy thing. We're going deep in this. I love about the love is a strong word. I don't know if I love anything about the job. But I will say that getting a message 5 or even many months or even years after seeing somebody and having them reach out and sharing a personal or professional success. Hey, I'm getting married.
Yeah.
Hey, I just got a job. Hey, I just quit a job because of what we worked with and I got out of a toxic environment. And to know that what you did together, the work that you did together, because again, ultimately, the therapist is, she is a catalyst, but the real work is being done by the brave people who enter therapy. It's so rewarding to know that the repercussions, the ripples, the effects that have happened, that the seed that you planted many, 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 many months or years even, and seeing that it's sprouting into something is something that's very, very hard to describe, but it's definitely one of the perks of the job. Because it's a crazy thing when you think about it. It's not a good use, good for a mental health professional to use the word crazy. So it's a bizarre thing. See, like someone sits down with you, and after 45 minutes, 50 minutes, an hour and 15 minutes, you're going to know more about them than like 90% of the people that they
Yes.
know.
Yes.
And it is a sacred task that we're really going into something that's pnimi, that's really internal. And the fact that this person is brave enough to share this with you and vulnerable enough to be saying, I'm going to really bring all of myself. And it doesn't always happen in the first session, but when you finally get into that groove, there's a very, very humbling and it's an honor really to be a part of someone else's journey and that they share that with you.
Wow. That's really beautiful. Who's somebody you admire?
Who is somebody I admire professionally, personally?
In any
I'll tell you. How old am I allowed to ask your age? Are you at an age where it's appropriate to ask your age, or it's like it's not appropriate
Sure.
to ask someone their age? Yeah, how old are you?
Guess how old I am?
No, I'm not doing that. Just tell me how old you are. I'm not getting in trouble. The
14.
thousands of people you're 14 years old. So being 14, like who your friends are really important, right? Social pressures, and you're just starting to get into the catty, like ninth grade or 10th grade.
8th grade.
8th grade, right? 8th grade. So it's like it's starting. You're about to go into high school. I don't even know. Do you go to high school in Oregon?
It's a good question. No, I'm probably going to school in Delaware.
You go to school. Whoa. Okay. You just don't. You're just taking the least. The path less taken. You're like, oh, I'm in Oregon. You know what? I'm going to keep it a little funky. I'm going to go to Delaware. What's in Delaware?
A high school.
I get that. Are we keeping private details private? Because we got to keep
No,
our podcast.
no. Because basically, in bigger schools, they wouldn't let me do what I'm doing now. The school has like 25 kids in the whole school. The whole school has 25 kids around,
Wow.
and they let me do what I'm doing now, kind of thing.
Which is your thing? You got to do your thing.
100%.
100%. So
I'm not quitting this.
Chas v'shalom, you found your passion. I want to hear more about that because I'm still trying to find my passion. So maybe you can help me find some hobbies, something like that. Should I go into podcasting professionally? Is there money in this?
Go
Or
ahead.
Is this for? No, I'm just saying how you who's sponsoring this? Who's getting this? Is you guys getting like a Warby Parker? Nike? No fancy clothing brands yet.
Nope.
No.
It's 100% free.
I think that my glasses company should sponsor me because people are staring at my face all the time, but they haven't done it yet. Hold on 1 second. I'm getting called. Hold on. I didn't take him yet. Sorry. You could edit that out. I'm sorry. Or not. So here's a nug. I'm only friends with people that inspire me. Like I really, you turn a certain age, which is older than 14, and you realize that the time that you have left on this planet, or how much time you think you have on this planet, it's a really precious commodity, the most precious commodity. So you really want to surround yourself with people that they're not always going to be saying yes to you, but they're people that inspire you to be the best person that you can be. And also you want to find friends who are really going to be able to see you, and again, we say it like therapeutically almost, to not judge. Obviously, you could mess up and you could fight and you could have disagreements, but to find chaverim tovim. And we're coming up to Lag BaOmer, right? What are we up to tonight? Well, you're still. Where are we holding? Oh, trick question. All right, don't worry about it. We're in the middle of it. So in almost in almost 17 more days, there's gonna be a festival called Lag BaOmer, which we celebrate as the Hilula of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, and you cannot go a page in the Zohar, which we believe that Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai wrote, cannot go a page where he does not say Anan b'chavivusa talinosa. He says everything, all of the mystical secrets, and all of the Kabbalistic spheres, and all of the like mind-blowing imagery and deep Kabbalistic secrets that all came about, because of the brotherhood, because of our friendship, because of Anan b'chavivusa talinosa. So again, that's what we're talking about. We're trying to find people that inspire us. So who inspires me from a friend level? Those are my friends. And from a rabbinic level, I would have to say that my primary inspiration, my source of inspiration, is Rav Moshe Weinberger Shlita, who is the Rav of Eish Kodesh in Woodmere. If you've heard of him, great. And if you haven't heard of him, look him up right away because he is breathtaking. literally, figuratively,
Amazing.
in all sense of the word. He's completely, changed my life and my exposure to Pneumius Torah and Hasidus, and
Wow.
also in terms of how I relate to my therapeutic style of being much more open and much more comfortable, and really trying as best I can to not just focus on external symptoms, not just focusing on the OCD, but also focusing on the neshama, not just focusing on the depressed mindset, but also on the neshama, and
100%.
100%.
Wow.
The
That was
goal the
really,
goal is soul.
that's true. How do you deal with pressure and stressful situations?
Beautiful, beautiful question. I'm actually hopefully doing a webinar with the meaningful people. I don't know if you say it with what we're doing, and we're going to be focusing on stress. And one of the beautiful things about stress is that how you perceive your stress is going to be how it impacts you, right? Is stress good or bad?
You're asking me?
I am asking you,
Good. Sometimes it's good.
right? Right? Sometimes stress can be something that we use as a way of propelling us forward. Meaning, every time we could see something that's happening, right? If we think that stress is harmful and we're feeling stressed, oy vey vey, right? Then we're in trouble.
Yeah.
But I want to ask you a question. Do you want to lead a meaningful life?
Of course.
Do you know anyone who's leading a meaningful life and isn't stressed?
I don't know if they're stressed or not. They never tell me if they're stressed.
They're not going to tell you they're stressed, but think about it. Meaning, like, what's stressing? I mean, being a 14-year-old girl is not pushing. I can't really speak to that. But when you're stressing about something, isn't it usually about something that like you hold near and dear to your heart,
Yeah.
right? You like your avodas Hashem, your
Yeah.
friends, your career, right? Your future. These are things that matter to you. Meaning, there are things that are at stake here. Means, and it's you have to remember what your values are. Like, what are your values? And then you're like, right. I'll tell you an amazing story that from about stress. You got time? We do anything? I mean, I feel.
100%. Go ahead.
Is there going to be time for questions from the audience? Because I feel like I see a couple hands raised. So you
100%.
guys are going to have to wait.
One time I scheduled an interview for someone for 6 minutes and it went to an hour and 30 minutes.
Oh, you're not getting an hour and 30 minutes. Then I'm going to start charging you. But anyways, so it's like a lawyer. Like I have that in my brain. It's like, every single minute I know how much my rate is. No, this is I'm going to have to pay you. And so there was somebody who does amazing stress research out of Colombia. I'm forgetting her name. And one of her things that she really was mechadish, that she innovated, was the fact that your mindset about stress is going to really impact how much the stress impacts you. If your mindset is stress is going to be something that's propelling you forward, then you know what? Great, bring it. And if your mindset is like stress is terrible, it's going to really, really, really cause negative symptoms. And she realized, she came to this. They talk about having these theater d'shmaya moments. She was in her lab, her graduate study labs, and she was like momish, crushed under her dissertation, and she just didn't think she was going to do it. She was in Yale, which means she was probably doing something right, but she was trying to finish her dissertation. She was up at the laboratory late at night. Nobody was there. The lights were out. She mamish was having a real crisis of faith. And
Yeah.
the janitor just peeks his head and he sees this girl mamish like sitting there doing one of these, and he says, another lonely night on Everest, and he walks away. And she didn't cop it. She didn't understand it. And then 2 weeks later, it's just like a ton of bricks. Laili, have you ever climbed Mount Everest?
No.
Neither have I. But imagine that you're finding yourself on Mount Everest. Imagine you're going to be sitting there some nights and it's going to be cold and it's going to be dark and it's going to be scary and it's going to be hard. Nachon?
Yeah.
You're climbing Mount Everest. Of course it's going to be hard. Of course you're going to have difficulty because you're doing something that is really, really important to you. That's really meaningful. So
Right.
of course you're going to have this. So when you see that, of course you're going to have that. So if you think that your stress is harmful, you're going to be in big trouble. So again, what I try to do with stress, what I try to do with myself, with my clients is number one is to change the mindset, and B is practice mindfulness. And we could talk till the cows come home about what mindfulness is. But mindfulness is just shifting from a reactive mode into a more responsive mode. Why? By seeing clearly what's really true. What am I stressing out about? What am I reacting to? Because usually you start to get a little bit stressed out. Your brain starts going, the heart starts pumping. You start to think, oh gosh, this, oh gosh, oh gosh, oh gosh, oh gosh, oh gosh. It's like, whoa. If you're able to take that step back and just observe and just see it, for what it is, then you could choose the value direction you want to be going. And that's Al Regal Achas, how we can approach stress and how we could live happier lives, and how everybody should sign up for the Laili podcast. Ooh, somebody's calling me. I am declining it. 1 second. Let me just tell him I'm on the phone. Oh, we have a 5-minute warning.
Okay. What is your most best and crazy memory throughout this adventure?
Whoa, not yet. Sorry. It's not for your age. I'm just kidding. Crazy adventures. Not for this podcast. So let's tone it down. I've met a lot of amazing people. I've been privileged to meet a lot of people, and what's been very gratifying sometimes is speaking to big rabbanim also who I don't have anything to add in terms of limud Torah and any Torah innovations, but in terms of psychology and sometimes being able to support those people has been very gratifying. Because even these unbelievable people, they sometimes need an impartial and non-judgmental and a therapeutic presence, because being a rav, being a manik, being a rebbitzin, being a tzaddik, a tzaddikis, it can be very, very draining work, even if it's and so being able to help people who are my heroes, HERE-O's, can be very, very cool.
Wow, beautiful. What are your dreams or something that you want to accomplish?
What? I let that go. I don't know. I just want to be able to be at maximizing on the kochos that HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave me. It was very, very, very meaningful to me to be able to write a book that's helped a lot of people. Davening to write another one. But in terms of dreams, I live in Eretz Yisrael. I have a family, Kanai Nahara, and I get paid to help people. So aside from the fact that I do not have my t-shirt company, thank God everything else seems to be lining up. Even though I don't know the dreams. The dreams are living the dream, as they say. But really trying to just be present in the here and now, and to really appreciate this precious time that we have on this planet.
Wow, beautiful. I have one more question for you. Ready?
Yeah.
What is a life lesson that you can teach us?
A life lesson that I could teach you. Is anyone listening anymore? I feel like everybody just passed out. We've been ongoing for so long. It's like, okay, but this is for you. Is if you believe you could break it, believe you could fix it. That's from Rabbi Nachman. And we really want to attach ourselves to tzaddikim, to know that there's nothing you can do. And it's a yesod from Surah Selmer also. Somebody's asking, hey, you in or you out? You ever heard that expression? Are you still in, or I'm out after the first night? Have you ever heard that?
Yeah.
What does that mean? What are they referring to? Surah Selmer. They say because you're supposed to count with the bracha every night, right?
Right.
I don't know if does Chabad have that minhag, or do people in Oregon get Surah Selmer, right? So no, I don't think Sephardic women count, so I just was making sure. But if you missed a night with the bracha, so then technically you're not supposed to count with the bracha. You're supposed to, right? So you say you're out. So the life lesson is you're never out. You're always in. You're always in. Your mindset is going to create it. Again, there might be some relationships that you have to cut out, and there might be some people who ghost you, and there might be some jobs that don't work out. But we're talking about the real things that are concrete, the love that HaKadosh Baruch Hu has for you. And your relationship with the Ribono Shalom, that is immutable, that is unchangeable, that is something that can never be broken. And so if you think that Chas v'Shalom, that you broke, that you for some reason are mechutz l'machana, that you've done something, remind yourself over and over again, change is possible. We can really come back to who we are in our nature and our essential oneness and a connectivity, and that's something that we can always access. So that's a life lesson that Sfiras Omer and therapy and doing a life is Vodidus, or having a wife who can yell at you, or a spouse to point that out to you, having a good friend, having a mentor, a rebbitzin, a rebbe, and to believe in the Or of Tzaddikim also, to believe the Or of Tzaddikim, and we can tap into Amech Kulam Tzaddikim, that we can always tap into that at any time, and that the goal is soul.
Wow, beautiful. Okay, Dr. Benjy Epstein, thank you so much for doing this beautiful, wonderful, and amazing Elevate Yourself interview. For more interviews, please contact the number 541-648-581, and don't forget to elevate the planet. To be added to the EGOT group chat, please contact the number 541-604-8581.